Mrs. Ramos? Here. Mr. Beppo?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Head? Here. Mr. Crings?
Here. Thank you, Brandon. Next, we'll go on to student representative report. Drake, what do you have for us this month?
Well, for sports, Joe Camo recently competed in the state cross country meet, and he got 59th overall out of everyone. Grace Hartman, they just had their sectional meet this weekend on Saturday, and she got 2nd overall, so she's going to be heading down to state for the 100 breaststroke.
Oh, for swimming.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say.
And then the winter sports are starting right now, except for some exceptions like boys swimming, because they got to wait for girls swimming to end right now. The sophomores recently took their civics exam. It's for in order to graduate, since that was recently passed. Juniors had Discovery Day, which means 60 professionals from around our community came in and gave a presentation if someone was interested on what they do and different options in that career field. And seniors got graduation things ready, such as measuring for gowns and everything. They also talked to some representatives from UW, Wood County, and Mid-State. Becca recently, actually today, was at a leadership program today, which had 41 people left for that today. And the LHS Theater will be going down to the State Theater Festival to perform their Scarlet Heart for that on the 19th and 20th. The Wood County Teen Driving Coalition just met today, and that will mean in the early December they will get together with other select groups from secondary schools and meet, and they'll exchange ideas and bring back unique things to do at their school pertaining to distracted driving and how to prevent that in our community. Food drive, we have a food drive this week at LHS, and all of it will be donated to SWEPS. It'll also help for families who can't afford for Thanksgiving meals and all that. And the last week in November is the end of term 1, so almost a third of the way there.
Great. You guys had a very successful fundraiser too for the honor flight. Kind of near and dear, my father got to go on it last month, so it's pretty awesome that you guys raised all that money, and there's going to be several more veterans who will be able to go on that trip. So that was really, really neat. Thanks, Drake. Next, we'll move on to the minutes.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of October 12, 2015, and the special Board of Education meeting closed session of October 26, 2015.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of October 12th and the special Board of Education closed session meeting minutes of October 26th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Any comments tonight? Okay, we'll move on to committee report. Business service. John, Larry, who's giving that?
Oh, I'll do it.
Okay.
We need to make a correction. Thanks, John. The business services met November 2nd at 6 p.m. However, the meeting was called to order, not by me, because I was in Florida, so I should not have called that into order. So we need to make that change to Larry.
You just move around. So.
Yeah. There was no public comment, and we had 2 issues. One is a 66.0301 interdistrict agreement, and motion was made by John and seconded by Katie that we approve this agreement. And then the second issue we had on our agenda was intercom system at the Performing Arts System. As we found out the last 3 to 4 months is that most of the electronics in the Performing Arts Center are outdated, and most of them aren't repairable or fixable, or they don't even have parts for them anymore. So we have had a series of replacements of electronics to bring our Performing Arts Center back to state of the art, so that we can host more electronic events, because everything is becoming more electronic, and we need to have the current equipment, otherwise we can't rent it out and good use of the Performing Arts Center. So there was a motion made that for the proposal to purchase the in-town system for the use of the Performing Arts Center and Soundworks at a cost of $16,408.70 to be funded from the community. It should be Community Service Fund 80 for the approval. So the committee recommends, and I move to approve both the for BS1 and BS2.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve BS1 and BS2. Maureen, could we have a call?
Mr. Cranes?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Royal?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina? Yes.
Thank you, Maureen.
And then the balance of our meeting for review of purchases, school education with our online group. And then there was a Congress update. Update and purchase on the program. And there's the park care vote. And then Ed had to go out and get a replacement vehicle. And found one at very reasonable cost to the district, considering the one that we did have to repair it would exceed basically the value of the vehicle itself. So it wouldn't make any sense to repair that vehicle. And we had to go out and purchase a used vehicle to replace that piece of equipment. So with that, the committee recommends and I submit the balance of our meeting minutes. Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the Business Service Committee meeting minutes of November 2nd, 2015. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and approved. John, moving to Personnel Services. Sandy.
Personnel Services met last Monday, November 2nd. There was no public comment at that meeting, and from that meeting, we have 3 consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Number 1, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation, and damages have been paid in that instance. Number 2, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 2 support staff resignations. And 3, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 1 support staff appointment. Does anybody want anything held out?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is second to approve BS1, 2, and 3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
And then we had an update on the 2015-16 open enrollment, and just suffice it to say, when you look at the ins and outs, when it comes to that, we are ahead of the game by $82,326. So we've got some more ins rather than going out. And when you look at it, and there's a lot of virtual, they're going all over the state with the virtual schooling. It's a whole new animal, so. And with that, I move that the minutes be approved as printed.
I'll second that.
Okay, and we have motion is second to approve the Personnel Services Committee meeting minutes of November 2nd, 2015. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you, Sandy. Next, we'll have Educational Services. Ann.
The Educational Services Committee met last Monday, November 2nd, and we also had no public comment. We had 2 consent agenda items, the first one on elementary report cards and the second on the civics exam administration. Does anyone want either of those held out? Okay. Our first consent agenda item was about the report cards, and Kathy Stebbins-Hintz, who was our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, presented the proposed 4K through 5 progress reports to be implemented at the end of the first trimester of 2015-16 school year. She reviewed the steps taken to create the new format, and if approved at the full board meeting next week, the steps for implementation. The Council for Instructional Improvement discussed and voted on this proposal on October 28, 2015, with 26 members voting in favor and no members voting against. And I just want to thank that committee, because that was a lot of really good, hard work and done really quickly to get it ready for this first trimester. Then we went on to the civics exam administration, and Kathy reviewed the civics exam guidelines proposed by the Social Studies CII subcommittee and grades 6 through 12 social studies teachers. She explained that the exam will be administered through Skyward. Students will take the exam as freshmen and must pass the exam by 60%. If they do not pass the exam, they may retake it in their junior year. A trial exam was given to current sophomores, and students did exceptionally well. The CII discussed and voted on the proposed guidelines on October 28th. 2015, with 24 voting in favor and no members voting against. So with that, the committee recommends, and I move to accept or to approve ES1 and ES2.
I'll second that.
A motion and second to approve ES1 and ES2. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, then,
I'd just like to say, on the, it still bothers me, the civics exam, that we would pass a state law that says you must exam by 60%, which in every other class, that's a year and a half.
my son pointed that same thing out.
It's, you know, to pass a law, I mean, for these, it boggles my mind that, you know, on the legislative update, there's a lot more than boggles my mind than that. The fact that this even went through, educated people, and if you're gonna do this and you're gonna say, okay, if we are that serious about having a civics exam, we should expect more than an F or a D to pass. It just bothers me. I mean, that's right up there with youth or course options and that type of thing too. It's just the silliness and ridiculousness to spend hard-earned money that we need in education on stuff like this. It just boggles my mind that they pass laws like this. And that they themselves probably would never have taken the test, or probably haven't even looked at the test. I'd love to see them take the test.
And then education is a multiple choice test. That's no way to measure education. Progress at all.
That was my
Tourist.
It just bothers me that this was even a law. And that, you know,
Well, it went through lots of debate before it became law.
at 2:30 in the morning, yeah, probably, yes. But it's just, I just can't even understand some of the stuff that they do down there, and then they pass it and they ramrod it through with no thought, and then usually with no guidelines, but I mean, to even set out a law to educators, 60% is okay. I just don't get it.
And then not to fund it. Just make it simple.
Okay, then we'll go on to updates if that's okay.
Thank you. Feel better now? Yeah, I do feel better. It's just still bothering me.
Our first update was on the Performing Arts Center, the general equipment and wireless intercom system. Eric Brittnacker, who is our director of the PAC, highlighted the number of events that take place at the PAC. He explained that within a year there are approximately 65 to 75 public events, drawing 35,000 to 40,000 people. In addition, there are approximately 15 to 35 private events, such as district functions. All events require setup, keeping him and his trained staff of approximately 10 technicians very busy. They are also required to maintain the specialized equipment. Mr. Brittnacker stated that WRPS should consider it a victory that the facility is so well used and appreciated by the public. Then we talked about the elementary charter school reports. The first one was Roxanne Filtz, who's the principal of Think Academy, along with teachers Ruth Holtz of grade 3, Mary Schultz, who's a counselor, and Mary Jo Zeroth, who's the kindergarten teacher. And they were all present to update the committee on accomplishments during the 2014-15 school year. Ms. Filtz shared a video highlighting several events. And because of the number of new staff at Think this year, goals for 2015-16 will include sharing the vision and mission of the charter school. Then Margie Dorhorst, who's principal of Mead Elementary Charter School, along with representatives from the governing council, Amy Scheid, who's the parent representative, Denise Martell, who's the teacher representative, and Guadalupe Ansel, who's a community representative, shared a video and reviewed highlights from the Kids in the Kitchen event hosted in April. This event was their primary fundraiser, bringing in almost $10,000. Goals for this year include a focus on reading and social emotional skills. Then we talked about curriculum proposals, modifications, and new courses. Kathy pointed out that there are fewer proposals this year than in previous years. She reviewed the board policy to add or modify courses, and then she explained the 4 curriculum proposals. And these include physics, force and motion, and physics forms of energy, principles of chemistry and chemistry applications, grade 7 and 8 mathematics, and outdoor education for the winter, and individual and dual winter lifetime. At the December Educational Services meeting, we will be asked to vote on each proposal. The vote will occur after members are presented with a summary of the CII's discussion and advisory vote on these proposals. We went on to discuss grades 6 through 9 trimester schedule, and Kathy, along with members of that scheduling committee, Tracy Gintner, who's principal at Rams, Gretchen Nielboski, counselor at Rams, and Larry Redpenny, technology education teacher at Rams, were present to discuss the most recent schedule proposal. And since the September Educational Services Committee meeting, the schedule has been revised several times based on teacher input. A survey will be given to Rams and East Junior High teachers to share their opinion of the proposal. Results and updates will be shared with the committee. And then lastly, we talked about the Wisconsin Student Assessment System. And Kathy shared with the committee that the Department of Public Instruction still has testing data embargoed that was set for release in October. As stated in the release from DPI, there are many reasons for this decision, but basically DPI wants the public data to have continuity. Because of the switch in vendors, developing new dashboards is a massive effort. Further, they want to display the proficiency of all students within a district. The final step in combining data will be a careful review once it is all put together. With that, the committee recommends, and I move that we accept the balance of the Educational Services Committee meeting minutes.
Okay, motion second to approve the Educational Services Committee meeting minutes of November 2nd, 2015. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes are approved. Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any agenda referrals or information requests this month?
The only thing I would suggest is that, and I believe you guys went to that meeting in Point on the 7th, correct, or the 9th, whatever it was, is that we might look at trying to figure out how we can advocate for education, for our basically education in Wisconsin Rapids. I mean, I don't know if it'd be a workshop or set it aside as a meeting sometime, or at least get some ideas and thoughts and some information to the public as far as what's going on, especially with these vouchers. I mean, we need to educate the people what this voucher is and how much it's going to actually cost people once they start seeing their tax roll, because if we're not getting the money from the state, but I believe this year is the last year the state, so the stuff I've been reading, this is the last time the state's funding it. And then next year, everything's out of school districts.
They'll take it out of our state aid payment in June.
Right.
In the meantime, we count the students in our, we get money for that amount.
So they're going to be changing how that works, but I really think we need to start being more proactive in advocating for our public education.
And I would like to say that in the morning, the Democratic, there were a couple of representatives there, and Representative Katrina Shanklin pretty much said that we really need to organize and then organize the parents and get the public to know it so that they really know what's going on, because she said that is probably our only hope for some kind of change.
At the conference, I just found it interesting. In past years, we would have the Republicans and the Democrats together in an afternoon session. And this year, the Democrats were in the morning and the Republicans in the afternoon, and both of them indicated that they were glad that they were there without the other side. So you can see how well they're working together. I thought that was quite eye-opening.
Gives us a lot of hope, doesn't it?
Yeah, they can't even sit next to each other and discuss something.
Well, and speaking of middle of the night decisions, Julie Lassa was not there because the Senate was in session till 2:30, in the morning, Saturday morning. And so she couldn't get to the meeting at, 11 o'clock or whenever they were scheduled. And that's ridiculous too. I mean, it's, cloak and dagger, it seems like, almost in the middle of the night.
Extraordinary session. That's what it was called.
Yes.
Okay, on that note, we'll move on to the legislative agenda. John, I guess you have some things to share.
Oh my gosh, I said how ridiculous some of this stuff is, but I'll go back to August, and I'll end with we got the information on vouchers, which is just mind-boggling. The first thing that, and again, there's very little detail on it, and I've been trying to read and find more, but there isn't anything on there. The parental opt-out of student testing, the bill passes assembly. But you still have the questions is, are we being penalized? There's nothing
They say
in there that
no.
answers that. What happens if, there's been 3 or 4 school districts now that I've heard information that they've organized a drive just to have all their parents opt out. So now they don't have any testing. What are they going to do? What's the penalty? There's nothing in here that says that, so that's the first thing.
My understanding is they're not penalizing districts if kids don't take it.
Yeah.
It doesn't count against us.
Well, I don't know how you can, because if the parent, you allow the parent to opt out, which, then the next question is because on the federal stuff, they're still talking about passing the bill for replacing No Child Left Behind and requirements for federal law. So how can they bypass federal law when federal law says we're not giving you money if you don't test, but then now you're allowing your people to opt out? So I don't know how that's going to reflect, because there's nothing on that. There's another bill that would require schools to report crime data. The next bill that they went out scheduled a hearing the the school start date, and they're not just letting us change the start date. It's based on whether 20% or more of your students are going to take an AP exam. Yeah. The changing room, that's already been, it was on November 2nd, they heard it. Now, yesterday, public hearing on Wednesday afternoon on proposed DPI rules. Oh, that's what it is. The school change room has been canceled. They're pulled from the hearing, so they pulled that hearing back already. Changed that for 2 days now. From 2 days later, they pulled it out. Now there's a legislative proposal that would mandate CPR training. Again, no funding, and I know where we were talking to legislators, and they said they'd like to know the cost of getting CPR dummies and how much.
But they're $600 a piece, the dummies.
$650.
Yeah, so I forgot who asked us to do that. Was it Julie Bosson might have asked us.
She did shaken baby syndrome that made that a requirement.
Yeah, so that's another one, again, a mandate, not, and most likely unfunded. So the public hearing was for the school changing room has been postponed. It'll come up again probably, because there's been several states that have now passed laws saying it's okay to, and then there's other states that didn't. And the federal, I don't know if they're waiting for a federal guideline, because the federal government hasn't given their guideline yet. So that's going to be a mess, depending on what the federal government says one thing and then the states pass a law for another thing. I think maybe that's why they pulled it back. November 18th, which was upcoming next week, there's a public hearing to propose the DPI rules on revenue limit exemption for energy efficiency projects. So currently, we can go outside the revenue caps to do some of these projects. Now they're looking at trying to eliminate that.
They asked the Republicans that on Saturday, and out of the 4 that were there, they're not supporting that bill. That they're giving us these tools that they gave us, and that we should be able to do this energy so that we can save money. One of them was it was Krug out of Stratford. What's it not called? Culp out of Stratford, saying some of them are having a 75 or 80 year payback, but if it's, for example, if it's something that has to do with gas, how do you know what the gas price is going to be this year, next year, and 3 years from now? So how do you know the payback? But all 4 of them said that they didn't think that was going to go anywhere, hopefully.
all that. And then there's the bill to eliminate how we can go to referendum, where they want to, if you fail it, you have to wait 2 years. And it's just like, again, it boggles my mind how educated, supposedly educated people can come up with this stuff and then roll it out. So we did get information on the statewide voucher program. Last year there was 1,008 head count. This year 2,514. The cap was 1,000. They removed the cap. There's still actually a cap in place because you can only do a single public district is limited to 1% of the school district's student population. So we have 5,500 students, so that means 55 of our, we have a possibility of getting hit with 55 kids for vouchers. I don't believe we have that many. Here's the fact, and we've hit this again and again. The whole purpose of the voucher program, again, was to give public students in failing schools a chance to go somewhere else and get a better education. Of the 1,640 new students enrolled in the WPCP for the 2015 school year, 19.1% attended a public school last year. So that is saying that the other 81.9 essentially already were in private schools.
So we're subsidizing.
We're subsidizing private schools. To the tune of, they get $7,214 per FTE through K4 through 8, and $78.60 per FTE student grades in 9 through 12.
That's a greater amount than our open enrollment amount.
Which is like $5,800 something, $6,000. Estimated cost $18.3 million. We can't afford funding the public education we have now, which is mandated by state statute, which I don't know again how they keep getting around this without some of these groups coming up and hitting that.
I wonder what's going to happen with, I mean, it seems to me like there's always been everybody coexists. Yeah, you know, we have our parochial schools, we have our public schools, we provide transportation to the parochial students. We've always developed calendars that work for everybody. But as these programs continue to get larger and larger, and we have to make choices at cutting back on programs that we offer because of the voucher dollars, at what point does that come to a head in the community? We're a pretty good-sized community. Look at some of these smaller rural communities that'll look at closing school buildings because their students have went voucher road. I can see some problems.
And you will see it, we're seeing, was it last, I think it was last year, increase their tax base 8.9% to cover the vouchers. That's the amount of money that they would cost. So 142 districts impacted by the WPCP will share an aid reduction of $11.9 million. We're sharing a reduction of 11.9, but yet this new program costs 15.8.
So at what point in time does the private school become a public school? When so many students are going to become voucher students?
Yeah. And then it goes on and shows the different students. It's mind-boggling. We had one other thing. Out of the Journal Sentinel, we've seen it, Colleen shared this with us, but it's still, politicians are, the title of the article is Politicians Are Failing Families, Communities, and basically our schools and us. Schools around the state and urban and rural communities are losing aid because of the mismanaged state budget passed by the politicians. I'll say their names because everybody knows who group they're with. Because of their voices and votes for the first time in Wisconsin history, Wisconsin kids will receive less per pupil funding than the national average, which the state has been so proud on education, it's almost sickening that it's the way it's happening. It goes on through the Milwaukee, out of Milwaukee, but Wauwatosa will see a 14% decrease or a $2.7 million reduction from 2014-15. Elmbrook, and these are the richer school districts in their area, which A lot of them have just built new schools. I mean, it's just amazing. So Elmbrook will see 5.5% or $262 loss, $262,000 loss. New Berlin, a 15% drop, a shortfall of 585. I was trying to look up online to see what we would lose, but I didn't.
It's about 70.
76,000.
I knew there was a number, I couldn't find it online for our district, because most of it was all. Green Bay and Appleton are actually raising property taxes. Neenah is increasing property taxes and tapping its reserves. Partyville is weighing across the board cuts to everything from elementary, middle school, high school athletics, and special education. Which I don't know how you get rid of special education, because that's mandated that you have it by federal and state law. Tigerton is trying to pass a referendum to defend schools from closing altogether. So, I mean, it's not, the frustration is coming more and more statewide, but that's why I said we need to start advocating and letting people, the parents know, because the parents have to start seeing what the true cost is. I mean, our district has been doing a lot. I mean, we've had a lot of cuts, but we also have a dedicated staff and a dedicated group of teachers and administrators that go out and get grants. The amount of grant money that this district receives is phenomenal, and that's how we keep things. I mean, the last meeting I was at, I had said that we even had teachers that had to go out, that went out and got grants. That's why we still have Japanese, because the Japanese teacher went out and got a grant to keep her program going. So the fact that we have such dedicated professionals, even in this time of Act 10, post-Act 10, and everything else that's happening in public education, is just amazing to me, and everybody from Colleen on down. I applaud everything they do for this district, because this is a proud district and it's very tough times, but yet we still offer the best education we can for our kids, and that's the whole thing, and that's why we're all here. For that, I'm pretty much washed out with the laws that are going on.
Saturday, some of the people from WASB, it was actually one of our lobbyists, said that when you're talking to your legislators, sometimes how they avoid the question. And if you're talking about a bill, they said, well, ask them, if the bill were up today as it is now written, how would you vote? Get them to give you a direct answer, yes or no. And, they'll say, well, I have to do more study or something like that, but just pin them down to see how they stand as of, that point in time.
But what does that mean? I mean, they tell you, if it were up to me, I would vote this way, but I'm told, they're told by, that they have to vote a certain way. I mean, the ballot box is where everything is determined. We need to educate the people that vote. And we need to get more people to go out and vote that have a better education and understanding of what the real issues are. Because we all know they'll tell you one thing to pass it by you today, and then they'll turn around and go vote in their caucus tomorrow. So
that's just what they're, and they did do that to the legislators that were there. They made them give them an answer to, today, at this, the way it's written, how would you vote? Do you support this?
And we got straight answers from most of them.
And one
But not all.
other thing they did say is that as board members, we should be asking our legislators, what do they see as our role, especially in the accountability issue? What do they see as our role? Because there's so many different, I think that's a good question. I'd like to know what they see.
Well, but they keep saying that they want local control, but yet
I know,
every time you turn around, there's a mandate, something else, they're taking this, they're taking that, so there is no local control. We can't even decide when we want to start schools anymore.
They also said, we hear some things, for example, there was the rumor, whatever, last week about the state superintendent would become an appointment and not elected. And they said, what happens is there may be one legislator that proposes this, and it comes out as this is the Republican stance, and they go, no, it's not, and that was an instance. That's what we were told. They said, don't blame us for all of it.
Right.
but would we be interested in having a meeting with our legislators again? I mean, we haven't
Well, they
for a while.
strongly suggest that.
I'm not sure if it does any good, but at least we have them in the room to hear our voices.
Well, it maybe does do good if we can get it reported on.
That would help.
That's true.
That would help.
And I think that's why you pin them down, because then you can say, well, you told me that you were going to vote this way, but when the actual vote came, you voted this way. I mean, that's one reason to ask them that question.
Do we have any swing with the media any longer? I mean, if we contact, obviously we have public access here and they would cover that, but if we contact the local media to say we're inviting the legislature, will we get a reporter to show up?
I can't answer that.
We haven't seen one for quite some time in our meetings.
The Democrat, Katrina Shanklin, suggested that we also use the consortium because you could get more opinions out, and you know, and they can address more school districts at one time, which you know their schedules are pretty packed.
So would we like to attempt to schedule a consortium meeting again with that?
I think we should.
I think we should too.
We can host it and see what we can get done.
What the Republicans said was, what the parents want now is the parents pay taxes, and they pay taxes to educate their child, so they should be able to take that money and put it where they want to, where their child will be educated. And I would say conversely then, I would like to take my money that I have for police protection and hire private detectives to guard my home. Wouldn't that be the same thing? Or when it came to fire protection, I don't want to pay for that. I will take care of that on my own. Give me that money. We could break that down for everything on the state level. It just...
Well, and there has to be a level playing field. I mean, every student that shows up at the door of our schoolhouse, we take.
Yeah.
And we do the best job we can to educate them. We don't get to pick and choose who we're
Right.
going to educate.
And we don't get to kick them out because they don't meet the standards of what my kids have. And they kick them back, and then guess what? They come right back to us. But they keep that money. That's the other crime in this whole thing, is once the third Friday comes, are done.
But you know, with doing away with the mandatory testing now where you can opt out, it helps the vouchers.
Yes, it does.
We're out of that now. They're, you know, no problem.
Well, on that note, we probably should...
Now we all feel better.
If we move on to bills.
Great, we got those two.
I would make a motion that the receipts be noted and the bills be paid as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have motion to second that the receipts be noted and bills paid as printed in our packet. Maureen, could you please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Heck?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee? Yes. Mrs. Braille?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina? Yes. Mr. Kearns?
Yes, thank you, Maureen. And I will take
We
your
just
spot
have-
in this focus of energy thing, because I saw that. I'm gonna beat you to it tonight. We had a rebate for replacement of heaters in the warehouse of $2,777.50, and on a freezer for Washington of $82.50.
And we got some stumpage for $25.57.64.
Of course, so doing everything we can to bring tax dollars. Didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Yes, you should.
Okay, we'll move on to new business.
The salary committee, members of the board, met with the teacher union representatives in one negotiation session. We discussed the CPI, which is the 1.62. We also talked about distribution of an inverse distribution scheme. And they took a vote and their union accepted. So I'm bringing it before you tonight to ask for your approval.
One meeting.
It was a very good meeting. I see that they understand. They see what bargaining is in 2015. It's not bargaining at all. So we talked about how we're going to maintain staff, how we're going to attract new staff, and they get it. I mean, people coming in are getting a greater percentage pay raise than the people at the top of the pay scale, and they agreed to that. So grateful to that group for that. I sense that there's a real respect on both sides of the table. So it was, I thought, a very eventful meeting.
So I guess I would make a motion then to approve a 1.62% base wage increase settlement reached with the Wisconsin Rapids Education Association for the 2015-16 contract year effective July 1st, 2015 to be distributed inversely as agreed upon.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the 1.62 base wage increase settlement reached with the WREA for the 15-16 contract year effective July 1, 2015, to be distributed inversely as agreed upon. Maureen, could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayo? Yes. Mr. Crane?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina? Yes. Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Bumble?
Yes.
Okay, with that, we can move on to our calendar and just remind everyone that we have a closed session meeting tomorrow starting at 3:15 p.m. I guess next after that is when your committee meetings in December. So, thank you everyone.